That fresh produce stand there, that's a beauty.
What do you listen to?
My favorite murder podcast.
Taggart and Torrance podcast.
The produce stand.
Fucking sexy.
You heard the man. It's the Produce Stand, your favorite source for everything in the universe. I'm Al, your host, Victor, and Tanya are on the mic. Matt, unfortunately, is not joining us. And just like Dolo, we're feeling blessed tonight to introduce tonight's guest. He's a Canadian actor, writer, and producer known for films like That Cold Dead Look in Your Eyes and Burden. His latest film, in which he wrote, produced, and starred, is called Older Every Day. But we all know and love him as one of the new junior players, Caleb, on season 4 of Shoresy. Please join me in making some noise for Eric Fleising. Oh, I hit
Who wants to set the tone, boys? Who's gonna fucking set it? Yeah! Whoa! Let's get on the go, boys! This team will never lose again.
Welcome to the Produce Stand, Eric.
Thank you so much for having me, Al. I just want to start off by saying this means so much because when I got cast in Shoresy, and I already wrote this to you, one of the first things I did was listen to the Produce Stand to listen to Jared Kiso's interview.
Get out.
So I could get a feel of the show. So I owe you one.
Oh my God, thank you for the listen. We owe you for the listen. I appreciate it. Did you learn anything about Jared that you didn't know already, though, from his interview?
Yeah, it's just he seemed very nice. So it kind of set me at ease. But also, as soon as I stepped foot in Sudbury, everyone from the crew before I even met him was telling me how nice he was. So it's a lesson I learned many times.
It's pretty ridiculous how tightly knit, but also we haven't found one asshole in that crew yet. We're still looking. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Where are you joining us from right now?
I'm in a small town an hour north of Montreal. I'm just visiting my parents.
Okay, but
I live in Toronto.
You're in Toronto. Is that where you're originally from, though? Like born and raised, or?
So I was born and raised in Montreal. Okay, and my parents kind of retired in in their cottage in Saint-Agathe-des-Monts. It's like a small town.
Very cool. So I mean, where you grew up in Toronto though? Like your formative years?
Sorry, I grew up in Montreal. Went to school in New York, and then moved to Toronto in 2020, right before the pandemic, which was the best time to move to Toronto.
Are you being facetious, or do you actually?
Yeah, I am. I came running back home 3 months in because there was nothing to do, and I was stuck for months.
I'm sure. Yeah,
if you're going to be bored somewhere, you might as well pay no rent.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Well, I was actually still paying rent, but all the money I was taking from the government was going to my landlord.
Right. So the acting bug, when were you bit by it?
It's tough to say. I think first I fell in love with movies in general. I actually grew up without a TV. My brother was too addicted, so
you're one of
my
those,
parents yanked it off the wall and got rid of it.
Extreme.
So instead, we grew up with literally 2 full doors worth of VHS tapes and DVDs. So I grew up just loving movies, watching them again and again.
Okay.
And then when I got older, I realized I probably I'm not really made for an office job. Mm-hmm. So I started taking acting classes and fell in love with that.
What were some of your go-to movies? I mean, tell us about your VHS collection.
The movie that most blew my mind, and this is not even one we owned, I actually rented it from the library, was the Truman Show.
Oh, love that.
Love that one.
Yeah.
No movie has made me think as much as that. It made me quite paranoid for a little bit. But
we might be in it right now.
Yeah, we're
pretty sure.
Sure feels like it.
We're in a cross between Idiocracy and Canadian Bacon. Right
I don't know.
But,
I still think that the aliens are laughing their asses off.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That sounds about right. I think when too many good things are happening to me, it seems too Truman Show-esque. Yeah. Something bad will happen.
So is that the movie that you probably watched so many times you can kind of narrate it or in your head
it is the movie I've seen the most outside of being a kid and watching Tarzan probably a million times. Mm-hmm. But I'm not big into rewatching movies, so I still couldn't narrate it. There's so many good movies out there that I feel it's tough for me to rewatch the same one again and again versus want to check a new one out.
Sure. Now, what was your first kind of experience as an actor? Was it on stage first of all, or on screen? What was it? Do you remember?
Yeah, shortly after I started taking acting classes, I got cast in a Montreal Fringe Theater Festival show. I thought I was like, oh, great, my first play, but it was a mixture of a play and like a burlesque show.
Okay.
So it was.
I wonder if Trevor Risk was there.
It was pretty interesting, yeah. And there was like a big snake involved, someone dancing with the big snake.
Of course.
And my parents' review after they saw it was, we really like that actress. And I said, well, what about me? And they said, well, your part wasn't big enough to count.
Oh boy.
Oh, you
You weren't dressed
it got
in the burlesque.
better from there.
I'm glad it got
You
better.
weren't dressed in the burlesque then.
I sure was not. I was sacrificed in a blood ritual, if I remember correctly.
Insane. So how do you end up in New York City then? You're going to school there for the theater.
Yeah, I studied theater at NYU, which was a great experience.
Like, talk about that a bit. Like, what were you doing there?
So even though I was always into film, I knew like some of my favorite actors. Let's say like Hugh Jackman. I was a big fan of him growing up. Studied theater, and I've heard people say that theater is where you really get training that then you could bring on the screen. So
Right.
I wanted to get those fundamentals in, and I studied 2.5. So I started at McGill. I was studying psychology. Then I transferred to NYU to study theater. I did a year and a half in New York, and then I did my last semester abroad in London at RADA, which was it's feeling like the best of both worlds in North America and England. So I was very lucky.
What kind of roles were you doing in London? Like, what were you playing there?
Shakespeare.
Yeah.
One of the Henrys. What is he? The 8th, the 6th.
Whatever
I forget
it was,
which Henry, but I
your-
played a Henry.
Yeah, whatever
it was a
your
Henry that
first.
was like very religious and like freaked out about everything. If there's any Letterkenny, Shoresy, and Shakespeare crossover fans, they'll say what it was.
Yeah,
I'm sure they're out there.
yeah, I'm sure. So since you do have a bunch of experience in on stage and now in front of a camera, what's your preference?
On camera, I'd say.
Yeah.
You know, pays better, better viewership, more comfortable. But there's nothing quite like the rush of being on theater and getting like a laugh.
Yeah.
Especially doing like comedy on stage, getting a laugh and the reaction versus you could be as funny as you want on camera. Everyone's goal is to not laugh, especially on Shoresy. Everyone's trying to, keep it tight.
Now, we'll get to Shoresy in a bit, but let's look at some of your movieography here. It looks like your first role, the killer clown meets the Candyman in 2019. Is that your first kind of?
Oh yeah, that was an interesting one.
Well, talk about that for a sec.
So I booked that while I was still in university. All my friends, everyone went home for the winter break, and we had this like very long winter break. So I said, I'm going to stay in New York and audition as much as I can for a week, and then I'll go home. And in that 1 week, it was the days of Movie Pass. I don't know if you guys know what that is, where you could watch like a free movie every day.
Sure,
So every day I would watch a free movie and then audition for something.
Right.
And I ended up booking like 2 short films and a feature film in that 1 week. I was like, wow, my career is set. It's never been as good since. But this feature film was Killer Clown Meets the Candyman, about 2 real life serial killers. What if they had met? And I played Elmer Wayne Henley Jr., who was Dean Corll's, the Candyman's real life assistant. So it was this teenager kid, and I think he's still in prison. That would literally get his friends for like something like $200 a pop to go over to the Candyman, who would then, kill them and do bad stuff to them.
Yeah,
Quite dark.
It's a crazy plot here. John Gacy and Dean Corll meet Charles Manson, and
The whole Charles Manson, he was very briefly in it. Anyways, it was super duper independent. I'm glad they took that they hired me.
Yeah.
But it was a tiny, tiny crew and interesting characters. The director was a slowly retiring chiropractor. So he kind of did it for fun.
Okay. Now, I mean, I don't know, looking at some of your other roles here, Paranormal Night Shift rings a bell to me because I know that Blair Lamora, the actress who plays Zeeg on Shoresy, was in an episode of that. there's somebody else. There was another tie to Shoresy here. Oh, no, not to Shoresy. Actually, to your current film, Paige Evans. Is that where you met Paige?
Oh, no, I met Paige just from casting her.
Oh, okay.
But Paranormal Night Shift and all those paranormal shows are, it's almost like the Toronto's version of like SVU.
Right.
Where it's like, that's how you kind of get started a bit, especially if you're non-union, because those shows are non-union. So it's different than SVU in that way.
Yeah.
But it's a good way to get started.
Cool.
And it was my first role after COVID. So it was the reason that I moved back after COVID
to Toronto.
After taking a break from Toronto for months, finally went back to Toronto.
Now, why Toronto? Is it just because that's where all the productions are kind of based out of? That's
exactly. Yeah. And it's closer to Montreal than Vancouver. Right. It's worked out so far.
Yeah. Well, for you, for sure. Now, I mean, looking at your filmography here, obviously, you know, you're starting out still, but you're very your most recent role, other than Shoresy, is a movie that you're not only star in, but you wrote and produced. I mean, how do you get to, I'm just starting out to, I'm just going to do everything here and roll my own? Is it, did you look at someone like Jerry Keeso and think, all right, I want to do what that guy's doing?
So like Killer Clown Meets the Candyman or these before I did my film Older Every Day, I had some roles in something like five independent films.
Yeah.
And I saw how producers were making films of varying quality on a small budget. I realized, this is like a real possibility. And I thought I could try doing that. So I started by writing a script. I wasn't sure if I would make it. Then I really liked it, did a few table reads, had some really good reactions, pitched it to another producer. He liked it. And then, we were just rolling with it.
Amazing. And I mean,
let's talk about the script a little bit.
Yeah.
So is that completely fictional? Is it based on your best friend? Where did the inspiration come from?
So it's a completely fictional story. So the basic idea I had first was of inheriting a brother. And I actually had this idea when I was in New York. One of the last things I did in New York was do a play. It was Romeo and Juliet, and I played Paris. Spoiler alert for the Shakespeare fans. Paris dies in Act 3, or Act 5 or whatever. So I was laying dead on stage for something like 15 minutes, trying not to breathe. I'm just like, oh my God, this is rough. Like, I should do more film. I should come up with an idea right now for a movie. And believe it or not, that's when I thought of my movie for Older Every Day.
While you're laying there dead is when you thought.
Yeah, well, I was trying not to breathe. So I wrote a version shortly after that. It wasn't very good. I got to page 60. I, shelved it. And years later, I revisited it. I read a book on screenplay writing, funnily enough, and I was like, this is how I could organize all my thoughts and the structures, the 3-act structure.
Okay.
And it worked much better with a little theory in it.
Well, in case I didn't mention the title off the top, it is called Older Every Day. When did you guys produce this movie? Because it's just releasing now, right? But you've had it for a bit. Yeah,
so we filmed in 2022.
22, okay.
And then it kind of finished, post-production ended in 2023. Then we did a film festival run. So we were in a few film festivals in Canada, and we had our world premiere in New York City, which felt like a really full circle moment for me, which was very cool. And we ended up winning Best Features at the New York Odyssey Film Festival.
Congratulations.
And then we had our Canadian premiere at the Forest City Film Festival, which is where the director is from, and where Ethan Hickey's the director. He's from London, and we shot his movie Burden in London.
Right.
So it felt like another full circle moment. So, and then, they took a little bit of time to find the right distributor, but I'm very happy where we are now.
So you have some distribution. Where are people going to be able to watch it?
Yeah, so in Canada, our Canada and worldwide distribution is IndieCan. So they put it on Bell Video on Demand, Apple, Vimeo Video on Demand, and Shaw Video on Demand. And the US, our distributor, it released a little earlier, and now you could watch it for free actually on Tubi, or if you really want to pay, you could rent it on Prime Video.
All right. So
Nice.
it's available on Prime and Tubi. Amazing. So anyone listening to this, go out and check it out. We watched it actually just last night. Tanya and I watched it. It was great. We loved it. It was you did a great job. I mean, that's your first.
Thank you.
That's your first script. Holy crap! Like overachieve much.
How does that feel though to be like the trifecta? Like you're writing it, you're in it, you're like how do you keep all of that separate in your head, or does it all just blend and you don't know where the beginning and the end is?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to watch the movie. I appreciate that. As for wearing different hats, I just try to wear one hat at a time. You know, when you're writing it, you put on the writer's hat, tippity tap. When you're acting, you try your best to ignore everything else. And when you're producing it, really, hopefully, if everything goes well, it's all in pre-production. But of course, things pop up on the day. But when it's time to act, you have to try your best to just think of the given circumstances and the scene and your scene partner and just let the rest of it go.
Wow. You did amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Oh,
amazing.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it with my wife yesterday, and I was a little nervous because I was thinking, well, what if it's not good? We're gonna have to humor him. But you know what I mean? Like we were just we really enjoyed it, and at one point I actually shed a tiny tear.
What?
One of
Wow.
What an
You don't
endorsement.
know how big a deal that is to get Victor to actually cry.
Yeah.
Or
No,
to
there
feel
was
anything.
there was one very endearing scene, and I do enjoy how the father was kind of torturing you when you were kind of looking for your new little brother, and you couldn't find him anywhere. It's like he must have been hearing you, but he didn't say anything. Like he could have said, "I'm in here. I'm in this dark room." But anyway, that was pretty. That was it. It was we really enjoyed the movie. The acting was great. Production was great. And at first I kind of felt like, what is this movie going to be? Is it going to be like about, just kind of this guy that's going to dropping out of school. And he's just doesn't know what to do with his life and whatever. And it's going to be kind of a party movie. And then no, it turns into this really nice, touching, wholesome story with some tension and intrigue, and really enjoyed it. And I, just very genuine. I would recommend this movie to anybody. I think I just can't believe it's your first.
Well done.
And so the title, is it just basically on a nose? It's just because of the character growth, or what's behind the title?
Well, thank you so much for all those kind words. Wow. This is an endorsement for a family movie. Everyone get their spouse and come go watch the movie. Bring your kids too. There's very little swearing. The title, man, it's so long ago since I thought of it. Yeah, it's a little, he's not getting younger. I think that, okay, so really the idea was there are some days where 24 hours pass, you get older, and other days where it feels like 10 years have passed, but no matter what, you're getting older every day.
And again, the way the movie starts, you kind of it's kind of thinking mostly about kind of yourself and whatnot, and then you develop as a character, and you're the one that's kind of pushing your dad. And we're not giving stuff away here.
No. It starts
you
like
definitely see the character growth.
It starts as a slacker story, and then it turns into,
definitely that was the intention. And Val has this somewhat of like, so I don't think it's a spoiler either to say like Val lost his mom at a young age, so he gives himself this pressure, and which is kind of like, which amounts to nothing really, but he knows that he's not getting younger and that he wants to make the most out of his life, but he has nowhere to focus that energy until Charlie comes in.
And great music, really good soundtrack in the movie as well.
Well done.
Oh, great. Shout out to Christopher Guglick. Our composer is amazing.
It was really well done.
Our co-host Matt also watched it. He says sorry he couldn't make it tonight. He really wanted to, but he had some other commitments. But he did have some questions. The first one was, where was it all filmed? He says, I know it's in the GTA. I just couldn't pinpoint it.
Yeah, so miss really everywhere in the GTA, Oakville, Mississauga, North York. Do you have any like specifics that you saw?
Oh, I grew up in North York, so that would be fun.
When you
Yeah, so that the main house was in North York.
when
Nice.
you were at the water, and I feel like that was like Niagara area, like
No, it was Jack Darling Park.
Oh,
Do you know it?
Darling Park.
It's in it's either Mississauga or Oakville, but it's gorgeous. It's a really nice park. And we were lucky that they let us shoot there. There's not many beach looking places in Toronto, and there's no way we were going to go to Toronto Island, put all our camera stuff on a boat. We weren't about to do that, so we got lucky that they said yes.
And I want to shout out some of your cast. First, we'll start with just because of the Shoresy ties. Lisa Cromartie, who plays the social worker. Was that just a coincidence, or did you cast her because you knew?
No. So I made this movie way before I got cast at Shoresy. Yeah, pure coincidence. I don't think even being in Shoresy made me want to cast her. She just had a really, really strong audition. So she plays the social worker that reviews Charlie's case. And she brought this realness to us, this like tiredness with the system that no one else really brought. So she was fantastic.
She was a little hard on your character there on that first interaction, but hey, put you in your place.
She doesn't have time to waste, you know. It's kind of the story. She has a million places to be, and she's trying her best. And if she's gonna, you know, say things, she's gonna say them.
The actor who played Charlie, Jacob Soley, he was great. I don't think I've seen him in anything else, fantastic. But well cast.
You might have heard his voice and things, especially if you have kids. He's like the most prolific voice actor. He's very accomplished.
Cool.
He was also in this movie with Greg Kinnear and Luke Wilson called You Gotta Believe. That was just out last year, and it was #2 on Netflix Canada, actually. So congratulations to him.
Oh, those are some big co-stars there. Yeah, we'll have to check that one out.
It was a baseball movie shot in London, Ontario.
Yes.
Only London. That matters.
Christina Orjalo, she was a revelation too. I mean,
she was amazing. Yeah, Christina Orjalo, and she was nominated for Best Supporting Actor in a gender non-binary. I guess there wasn't male or female Best Actor, but at the New York Odyssey Film Festival, and she really deserves that nomination. I thought she was fantastic. It's not an easy role, and she nailed it. Thank God she auditioned. It was like a sigh of relief when she auditioned. She just got the character right away.
So as an actor, I mean, because you're the producer, I guess you're in on the audition process, right? You're in on the casting process.
I did so much for this movie, Al. As a producer on an indie, I cast the movie. There was no casting director. I cast the movie.
So how, I mean, like, because you know what everyone's going through, are you feeling bad for everyone who's like, oh shit, I can't tell this person they're no good for the part? Like, were you like,
you know,
how did you deal with the rejection?
So for this, it was like pretty clear for each one we want to do. I'm working on my next project now, which is a TV show, and we like just did the callbacks in Montreal, and it was so close between two choices, and that's what I thought was harder. It was like whoever doesn't get it came so close to getting it. Right. I feel like that's tough, and I've literally been told for Reacher, they literally told me I was the second choice for something. It's like that's tough.
For Reacher, you could have been on Reacher?
It builds character, and then later when you get the next incredible part, then you look back and say that was the best thing that could have ever happened, right? That's how it works.
Yeah. Or you roll your own and do what you did with
you just make your own movie.
Yeah, exactly. Take all that character and put it in the movie.
Matt also said, I noticed your company Mika's Productions produced the film. What was the motivation to start a company, and what is your process for selecting projects? But it sounds like this is the first one, right?
Yeah. So it's very much like it's a means to an end of making movies. Like do short films or commercials.
You're like Isaac Newton,
long format.
Yeah, he needed to create new math to be able to solve his problems. So he created calculus. Yes. So you went and created this company.
Exactly.
So good on you. You're right up there with Newton.
What's the meaning behind Mikas, the name?
It was my nickname growing up that my siblings gave me. So somehow it went from Eric to Eric Key to Miki. That was the real jump. And then Mikas, which is what I called it. But then it, kind of kept going to like Mikasi Freakasy. But I was like, that's not as good. That's not as catchy.
Bit of a trip.
Mikas had could have been like an old Greek word. Like, this sounds pretty good. And, the stories I tell, I try to put all of myself in them, especially as an actor. So I thought, what a better name than like my nickname growing up.
Nice.
All right, let's get to the part of the show everyone's waiting for. Shoresy, get to it already. How did you get involved in Shoresy? How did you get cast as Caleb?
It's not the best story. I have an agent and she submitted me. She said, you better watch the show. It's a big opportunity. She said, maybe work with a coach, which I didn't do. But I did watch the show. And I recorded it, and which is pretty crazy for a role that could like really change your life. But I literally booked it right from the tape. They didn't.
Amazing.
So what might be interesting is I auditioned for the role of Jack, the big forehead guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
But even though I was like playing it cool, I guess they saw weird Caleb in me, and they offered me Caleb.
Well, when you got the description for the character, what was the Caleb description? Obviously he's weird because he's the goalie, right? Like, is there anything else that it said?
They didn't give it to me, actually. They kind of gave so they were casting Jack and Mason first, and I guess they were going to focus on that. And instead they offered me Caleb, and it was like, there's not much we could tell you about this character. They did ask if I knew how to skate. Right. I was like, oh no. Because I'm not a great skater. Right. I'm not terrible, but I gave up rather young at playing hockey. So I have weak ankles that bend a little bit. And I'm not great at stopping, or I wasn't. So what I did, the first thing I did when they asked me that, they offered the role and said, do you know how to skate? I was like, I asked my agent, like, tell them yes, and I'll take lessons. So I went with my girlfriend's 12-year-old cousin to like Daddy and Me skates. We went like 3 times, and I practiced like stopping and going in circles and all that stuff. And then I found out that I was playing a goalie. So I did that for nothing. I was like, oh wait, do I have to learn how to like stop pucks and do the butterfly and all these other tricks? But they told me I was going to get a double, which is, thank God. Shout out to Carter, my double. He's amazing.
Well, I mean, if they're going to give Ryan McDonald a double, they better give you a double as well. Because I'm pretty sure it's actually the same guy. Inside scoop. But there you go. You heard it here first. Were you? I know I asked you this before, and you didn't want to answer, but I'm going to ask you now. Did you know Letterkenny before you got this part?
So I knew of of course I knew of Letterkenny, and I knew of Shoresy, but I hadn't seen either shows. All right. I knew of Shoresy actually because I did this in the movie Burden that I did in London. The lead's girlfriend is Michaela, who plays Pam on the show. Oh, so I knew her, and then knew of Shoresy, and she talked about how great of an experience she had. So that was really how I knew of Shoresy, but I hadn't watched it. But I watched like the first 2 when they when I got the audition, and then I like binged all of it when they offered the role. Thank God I love the show. I mean, it's great. Yeah. Big fan.
Yeah. And for those concerned, you don't have to watch Letterkenny to enjoy Shoresy.
No, I know. I like asking whether actors were familiar with the content before.
No, I'm not for your benefit. For our new listeners who maybe are not familiar with Letterkenny, there isn't much canon there. Yes, Shoresy's from there, but it's a brand new start. You can enjoy Shoresy without having to worry about the 12 seasons of Letterkenny.
Yeah, definitely. And there's such... Yeah, I mean, now I'm like the biggest fan of Shoresy. I think the writing is just so tight, and the character arc of Shoresy is just so fascinating, where he starts versus where he is now at the end of season 4. I mean, that's some quality television.
You're not just saying that because Kiso's your boss, right?
No, I'd be too afraid to tell him to his face.
Hey, you keep making movies. One day Kiso might be in one of your movies.
Exactly.
You'll be his boss.
If I can afford him.
Now you're no stranger to sets. So when you got up to Sudbury, first of all, had you ever been to Sudbury before?
No, I hadn't.
So when you got up there and you got to base camp and stuff, we've already been up there. We got to visit everyone, see behind the scenes stuff. It's a really cool vibe. But I mean, we know nothing about television sets, right? So when you got up there and you looked around, was this what you expected, or was it kind of something different? What would you say your experience was when you first got up there?
Well, so we were lucky. So there were 4 of us that were new to the season, and 2 of us were very familiar. Not me. We're very familiar with Sudbury, including like Chase Coughlin, who plays for the OHL, and Xander Roy, who's a Sudbury native. So they like kind of showed us around, which was great and really helpful. My first impression of Sudbury was like, these are literally all Shoresy sets.
Yeah.
Everything I saw was like, oh, I saw that on Shoresy. I saw this on Shoresy. I saw this on Shoresy, which is really cool. It's almost like you could do a walking tour of Sudbury and make it into a Shoresy tour.
Yeah. We've done it. We were led around by a producer. They were taping us. It ended up being a bunch of like tourism Sudbury commercials for a bunch, like the Letterkenny podcast visits Sudbury. It was hilarious. Anyway,
that's great.
So what's
they paid us in socks.
Yeah. They paid us in experiences. Come on. What are some of your favorite like places, like hangouts in Sudbury now? This is, by the way, this question is from our buddy Jeff in Maine, who, when he heard was come on, this is like one of his boilerplate questions. He'd like to know, where did you like to hang out, or what did you like to do when you were up in Sudbury?
Pepe Panini's is great. Loved it there. The Laughing Buddha, good food. Really liked it, and a cool bar. We spent a lot of time at the YMCA working out because we had those shirtless scenes, and also we started it was my first time playing squash. They have a squash court there, so you could find the 4 new guys playing lots of squash.
Yeah. It's a heck of a workout, actually, squash. I remember.
Yeah, it would actually, like, my arm would hurt. And, Chase had never played squash, and Isaac came in, like, good at it.
Yeah.
And almost immediately, Chase, who's like a professional athlete, started kicking all our asses. Sure. It was insane. He just never gives up.
Yeah. So, our buddy Tobias in Missouri asked if you were a goalie in real life, and we've now learned that no, you could.
No, just the personality.
You could just skate, just the personality of the goalie. But he also asked, what's the best lesson the Blueberry Buddies taught you?
I think that's very interesting. That when you're in a show, you kind of represent the show. So you have to, be careful what you say and the image that you give, because that is also the image of the show. It's not like I had a terrible image before, but I just thought it was a very interesting and wise thing to say.
It sounds like they really run that crew.
And also just have fun. Like it was, they were insisting that we had lots of fun.
Yeah. Sounds like they run that crew like a team, and everyone's like working in this, for the same goal. Everyone's paddling in the same direction, no nails sticking out. Right?
Totally.
Yeah.
The cast was insanely welcoming of us. They actually threw us a rookie party for the 4 new guys with like a little scavenger hunt, and then ending up at a bar. So
that's awesome.
And we feel really lucky that they were so welcoming of us, because they didn't have to be. We're coming in season 4. They already know each other. Some of them are like literally best friends, and yet they were like arms wide open for us, and we're like ready for us to be funny and like to work. It was really cool.
Yeah. The 3 main guys, though, are like Goody, Hitch, and Dole. They're not. I mean, you're a more seasoned actor than they are, right? Was there like a weird dynamic there? Because I know they got cast because they're hockey players first, and Jared says famously, "I can teach a hockey player to act. I can't teach an actor to play hockey." Right? Was there any kind of interesting dynamics there, though? Because you're coming in, you've produced your own movie, you've written, and you've done all that stuff already.
I would never presume to come into a space thinking I know more than the people who have been there for 3 seasons.
All right.
Like I was ready to learn how they did it, and they're impressive actors in my book. Some of the things that they do are hard to do.
Yeah.
Like to be able to be able to underplay lines. Dolo, who really rewrites his text in French and makes it his own.
Yeah.
like Michael's is a more seasoned, he's a very seasoned actor.
Yeah.
So it was just like, yeah, tons to learn from him. And TR is probably maybe one of the funniest human beings I've ever met. I mean, he brought that like to be able to like channel that into his role. And he's one of like the only people that did like a bit of improv. So like so much to learn from that cast.
Well, what about then the new castmates that started the same time as you did? For like,
so 2 of us were actors and 2 were not, which was interesting. And then it was great to like all work together. Like they didn't know what like a call sheet was and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like we saw each other as a team. Like I didn't, know much about hockey, so they could help me and stuff like that. And I could help them read the call sheet and run the lines.
That episode 2 cold open seemed very natural. It just seemed like a bunch of kids who were nervous in front of a camera and just kind of goofing around. So, I mean, how much of that first is in the script, or how much of that was just like in the moment you guys were just having fun with it?
I hear something crazy. That was the first take, and we only did 2. They did a second one for safety.
Really?
Which I've never seen someone happier in my life than Jared when we finished that take. And he ran up to us. He was so psyched. And man, that guy has a vision, because it's like when you read on the page, you're like, yeah, I guess it's funny. But now that I watch, I'm like, wow, this is drop dead hilarious. This is such a funny.
So there was no improv there. That was fully scripted from beginning to end.
My part was fully scripted. They had a lot of lines to say, so I'm going to cut them some slack. And they didn't have to say exactly what their lines were for it to work.
But they had to screw up when they were screwing up. It wasn't like,
It was
we'll keep that.
Just broad strokes, like. But no, they obviously mostly stuck to the script, but it didn't matter as much. If they screwed up, they could just keep going with it. That was the whole point. The pressure of my character is like, he goes at it, he knows it.
Yeah.
So after like an 8-minute take, I have to say the last long bit. I'm thinking like, oh my God, don't mess this up. Don't mess this up. But I didn't. Thankful.
Yeah. It was on you to nail the last.
the last.
It was hilarious. I was like yelling to the TV, "No, you said your age again, buddy." No.
And then he still said the age.
They were so. Those guys are so funny in that scene. I mean, in everything. I feel like so lucky. Like the casting department on this is just insane. They chose such like 3 great actors.
Now I'm looking at your credits. Is this your first comedic role? Like I know there's like some horror and obviously Older Every Day is more dramedy, right? Or drama.
Oh, so being assistant to Wayne Gacy wasn't a comedy?
No, I didn't try to throw in any jokes into that one. Yeah, I did a lot of drama stuff. I've always been super into comedy and studied some improv.
Yeah, because you seem so natural at that, right? So it's surprising. It's surprising that this would be your first kind of real comedy role. Well,
comedy is at an interesting place right now where there's less full-on comedy programs. At least, there's more on TV, but there's less on film these days.
Yeah.
So perhaps it's because of that, or I also do have a lot of fun doing drama, and I try to bring some levity to some of the roles.
Yeah.
Like the movie Burden I did was probably the most like serious, no jokes ever in the entire script.
Yeah.
But then I like threw in some improv at the end, and thankfully made it so to add some levity to the character. So I try to always bring some comedy to it. But it's so fun to be able to do like pure comedy.
Well, even at the beginning of your Older Every Day, when it seemed like it was going to be kind of one of these slacker movies, you show comedic chops, even just in the looks and stuff that you gave. So is this something maybe you want to explore even more, or are you happy with whatever you can get?
That's well put. So sure, I'll take whatever I can get 100%. What's funny is like when I started writing Older Every Day, I'm like, this is funny. It's funny. And then like as I kind of reworked it, it became more and more serious.
Yeah.
And that's kind of happening now as I'm rewriting the TV show that I'm making for TFO. It's getting more and more serious, but hopefully the next thing I do is more comedic. It's also like in a TV show, you have more room to like play.
Yeah.
So I have more like comedic moments. I'll try to have like more like purely comedic moments versus a mixture of both.
Definitely some moments of levity throughout the movie anyway, but it seems predominantly dramatic. So just back to Shoresy really quickly. Can you think of maybe what's your best memory of that, your first season 4?
One of our days was just being on a lake tubing and hanging up on a boat, and we got to like jump off the boat, swim around. The water was the hottest the lake has ever been for me.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, this life does not get better than this. And then as we're on the boat and Shorsy's telling us some of his lines, some of the reasons, some of the things that he would do for Laura Moore.
Right.
And we're just like sitting there, like trying not to laugh.
Right.
Just in like basking in the sun. I was like, this is life.
Did you like want to call your parents going, hey mom, dad, like I'm at work, and like show them like the panorama of the lake?
Oh, I would be too afraid to ever make a call on set. No. Yeah, I try not to be on my phone too much on set, I guess. So I did not call them. I more wanted to like leave it as a surprise of them like seeing it afterwards.
Sure. And then
under silver deliver.
Now, and you mentioned, trying to keep a straight face. I mean, can you think of a moment on set where you guys just couldn't finish a scene or came close to not finishing a scene because there was just too much breaking?
Yes. This is not the most PG joke that there was in the show, but it's when Mason's character is making fun of Jack's character because he really is into this girl, Maria Mercier. And he says all the different things that he's doing to himself when he thinks about the girl. And Chase had like a bit of a rough time saying like a bit of a tongue twister. So they kept having to do it again and again and again and again. And it really was a tongue twister, to be fair. And it just every time he messed it up, it was getting just funnier and funnier and funnier. So I think that was probably the time I had the hardest time not laughing.
It's amazing. If you listen to our interviews with Burke Casabon or Keegan Long, the thing that stuck out to us there is they would run their lines with their moms. So their moms are saying the Shoresy lines.
No way.
And they're saying their own lines, and just picturing that, I can't stop laughing.
Oh my God, they should post a video of that.
Right?
I want to see that.
I said the same thing. Like every time I see them, I think of them running lines with their mom.
That's so funny. Yeah, because those scenes, I mean, like a lot of scenes have to be really quick, so it makes sense. I practiced a lot of stuff with my girlfriend, which indulged me, which was very nice.
Very, very patient of her. Did you have any other questions?
We've gone through so much. Come back to me.
All right, Victor,
let me collect my thoughts.
Yeah, sure. I have a question for you. So, you kind of already overachieved from our perspective. Just right. I mean, like you
might as well just retire, Eric. Just retire now.
Yeah, that's how I feel sometimes. Yeah.
You got the hat trick, right? I mean, you're acting, you're producing, you're writing, and you've actually completed it. Like there's people that, oh yeah, I'm writing a novel, and then 50 years later they're still writing a novel, right? You actually completed this thing, and it's really, really, really good. That said, you have the option. You have two doors to walk through. One door is you've made it big on the world scale as an actor, like you're right up there with the Brad Pitts of the world. Apologies if you don't find that as a compliment. Or you're up there as a Steven Spielberg. Which door do you walk through?
Well, I'm not a director, so I'll definitely take the acting door. But something I do take seriously since moving back to Canada is it's a privilege to be able to be part of Canadian culture and make Canadian film and TV. And that, like Shoresy I felt so lucky to be on like probably the biggest Canadian TV show. And I want to keep making, films and TV for Canadian audiences that really like are unabashedly Canadian and that don't have to pander to anyone else. Because, right now with everything going on with our relationship with the States, everything they're saying about our country, calling it, 51st state or calling our prime minister a governor, I think it's really the time to take a step back and focus on our art and culture and what makes us different nation. So I'm excited to have the opportunity to keep making Canadian film and TV and participate in our like rich history of film.
Well put.
Incredible.
And I mean, you have the template now, like from someone like Jared Kiesel, but also New Metric Media. They're putting out
incredible.
some great stuff. That yes, it can be done up here. You don't need to be part of an American production for it to be successful.
Yeah, he really like Jared Kiesel forged a path for others to follow. It's like no one has done it to that level. I mean, Shoresy is huge in the States.
Oh yeah,
but
we know.
Still, it's like I said, unabashedly Canadian, unabashedly from Sudbury. They mention Sudbury all the time. Every 2 seconds, they show all of Sudbury, and yet people from all around relate to it. So I look forward to more Canadian films and TV that are Canadian.
Yeah. It's funny you say it's huge in the States, but up here, it's like you have to kind of look for people who know it. And I bet you too, in Quebec, it's even harder to find people who were familiar with the show, right?
Well, that's just, a language thing, I guess. But I do have friends that are big fans of Shoresy, but that can be a thing where it feels like Canadians tend not to support other Canadians, which is really too bad. And you see it a lot where Canadians won't like care if someone is successful until they're really successful in the States. Yeah. It's kind of like this inferiority complex that we all have. And I'm guilty of it too. So I really hope that's something that will change throughout my career and throughout the next few years.
And that's the nice thing about Kiso too, right? Because he went out there and then came back and made it big as a Canadian creator. Amazing.
Yeah, his career is great. Like 92 is a great Canadian show as well. Like that's a perfect example. It's set in Montreal.
One of my favorite shows all of a sudden.
Yeah. It's
so good.
Mm-hmm.
So you were saying that you're not much of a skater or a hockey person. Did you have to educate yourself? I'm all constantly. So I'm not a hockey person at all. I crochet while Alan was watching hockey. Did you have to like figure out what they were talking about, all the terminology and what? I know it's your off season, but at the same time you're on the ice, right?
I think like context clues are pretty helpful. And then if you just watch Shoresy, you'll like come to understand it. But something I did want to do research on is like what makes, big joke of Shoresy is like goalies are weird. But there's, some truth to that. Not necessarily weird, but it takes something. You need to be a little different if you're going to take these pucks that are shot at you like about 100 kilometers an hour, and then you just block them or they hit you in the face and you don't care and you'll go every day. It takes a certain personality. So I did want to like talk to some goalies about like what their relationship to the rest of the team was, like how they started. So that was my avenue in.
Oh yeah. So you did that kind of research?
Yeah, I did. Well, some of it towards the last second, like the person that was like, I had a skate fitting and then the person that was doing my skate fitting was a goalie. So I pestered him quite a bit during that fitting, asking him all the questions, and he gave me great answers.
Amazing.
What was the most surprising to you?
I don't know if it was anything surprising. It was nice to hear that because, Michaels gets made fun of a lot, but normally people actually quite love their goalies and need to respect their goalies because they're a fundamental part of the team.
Last line of defense.
Yeah, it was good to know that it wasn't like, the goalies are not like, they're obviously not a laughing stock. They matter so much. They might be the most important player.
That's probably just the biggest joke on Shoresy is how disrespected the goalies are on that show.
And then
but it's so funny. Oh my God.
My follow-up question is your favorite panini at, because you just spoke to me when you were talking about the food. I just so love Peppy Paninis is on my list, and so is the Laughing Buddha. But what's your go-to?
I think I was on a liquid diet every time I was on Peppy Paninis.
And the truth bombs. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, it was more the after hour Peppy Paninis that I experienced. I didn't get to go for the panini.
So
because it turns into like a bar/club.
Yes.
So I've only gone in that context.
Nice.
So I'll ask Matt's boilerplate question, but he's not here to ask. And you've already kind of answered it, but what does it mean to you to be part of the Shoresy world?
I think it's such a gift because the show means so much to so many people. It was interesting, Victor, you said like how my movie made you cry, which means so much to me. But like I keep reading about how people don't cry at anything except Shoresy. Shoresy means a lot to some people, and I take that seriously. It's such a joy to be able to like be in everyone's living room for 6 weeks, telling incredible stories and making people laugh.
Well, we appreciate you coming on tonight and giving us a full hour. You know, we're here to kind of amplify what you guys do. You know, if like whenever you want to come on and promote something, we're here for you. Like we'll be happy to have you on again. If you you know, write and produce another movie, come on and talk about it, because we appreciate you doing this for us. Thank you so much. Is there anything other than the movie you wanted to promote, like any other upcoming projects?
Yeah, so I have a development deal right now with TFO. It's the French TV channel of Ontario. So I'm writing this TV show called Bagnole. So we're going to shoot a short demo in like literally 2 weeks. And then hopefully we're going to get greenlit to shoot the whole thing in August.
So this is a French language show.
Yeah, French language. Taking advantage of my,
Nice.
Francophone roots. And that's also like an interesting rich history of Canada is the Frenchness of it all. And there's pockets of French people all around Canada.
Yeah.
So I feel lucky to be part of one of those pockets and to make a TV show for all the Canadian French pockets out there.
Very cool. And if people wanted to follow you and follow what you're doing, what's the best place to do that?
Oh, Instagram's always great at Eric Fleising. Fleising, or my production company, as you said, was Mikas at Mikas Productions. Yeah, check me out there.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for your time today. I'm going to play us off here with our buddy Joe Dolo, Going Gold.
Great.
17. Old screen. Never go broke. We going gold. I'm protecting the
And that's all we have for tonight. If you'd like to support the podcast, please rate us on iTunes, Spotify, or become a patron. You can also follow us on Blue Sky at ProduceandPod.com. Thank you for joining us. Now we're off to have some puppers with our new friend Eric. On behalf of Eric, Victor, Tanya, and myself, thank you for listening and have a great week.
I'm from the north, get poked for 20. Icy roads, we sliding on skates. Play night, slept with nothing in my belly.